Sorry, it's going to YouTube.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Education Abroad Fair. This is actually the very last session of the fair, so I'm glad you're here to help wrap this thing up. This evening, we're going to talk about international internship programs all around the world. I'll do some introductions here in just a second so you know who I am and a little bit more about me, but I do want to start with CSU's land acknowledgement. Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other Native tribes. We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and all the relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. CSU is founded as a land-grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion, and significantly, that our founding came at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples whose land this university was built upon. This acknowledgement is part of the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment. If you would like to turn this land acknowledgement into action, I would encourage you to reach out to the CSU Native American Cultural Center to learn more about how you can engage with, support, and advocate for Native tribes whose lands we occupy. My name is Christopher Snodgris. I am an Education Abroad Coordinator. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I manage our exchange programs in the UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as all of our international internship programs around the world. Joining me today is my colleague, Whitney Ewing, who will serve as the moderator for this session. Thanks for being here, Whitney. Our webinar does not have a chat function, but there is a Q&A where you can post questions and interact with Whitney. We'll end the session with a few minutes for questions, but feel free to post your questions as we go through the presentation as well. So before we get into talking specifically about internships, I want to talk about how they actually work, how an internship program works. CSU works closely with a number of different partner providers around the world to deliver internship opportunities in a wide range of areas of study and career fields. These programs are really fully customized to your interests and career path. Once accepted into a program, our partner provider will meet with you one-on-one to discuss your goals and what you'd like to get out of the internship, and then utilize their network of connections to find an internship placement that really meets your needs. Typically, our international internship programs are 32 to 40 hours per week and run 8 to 15 weeks. During summer internship programs, participants are essentially interning full-time, while many semester-long programs involve part-time internships with some academic coursework as well. It is important to note that international internships are almost always unpaid. The reason for this is largely due to interns being classified as students for visa and immigration purposes, and being gainfully employed while in another country can really greatly complicate the visa process, and in some cases, violate the conditions of your legal status in the country. International internships are, however, for credit experiences, so you are getting academic credit. There's a few different pathways for earning academic credit for your internship, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. There are costs associated with international internship, obviously, as with any education abroad experience. When we talk about the program fee, quote unquote, for an internship, that typically includes housing, the service of actually finding your placement, insurance, on-site orientation, and social programming. Additional costs would then include airfare, meals, in-country transportation, and personal expenses. You can always schedule an advising appointment to talk through the budget for any of our internship programs and get a better idea of the costs involved, and we'll talk a little more about budget later on as well. So let's talk about where you can intern internationally. The answer is truly just about anywhere. CSU administers our own internship programs in places like Dublin, Ireland, New Zealand, Valencia, Spain, and Prague, Czech Republic. These programs operate through long-standing partnerships, and each location is really popular with CSU students. In addition to these CSU programs, we have 10 affiliate partner organizations, and many of them offer their own internship programs in places like Berlin, Germany, and Tokyo, Japan. If you're interested in checking out these additional opportunities, you can take advantage of our open advising hours to discuss them, or use our program search tool on the Education Abroad website to search for internships. Another option is called Going Global. It's a great resource that you can use for free as a CSU student. Working together with the Career Center, Going Global can be a very useful tool in finding internship opportunities around the world. And then lastly, utilizing your own personal, academic, and professional connections can prove effective in finding internship opportunities as well. So as we talk about all these different types of opportunities, the different types of ways you can find an internship, I want to kind of talk through the pros and cons of each one. With all these different opportunities available to you, should you go with an established program? Should you go a more independent route? Each has some advantages and some drawbacks, so it really comes down to what makes the most sense for you as an individual. With established CSU programs like the 4 that I mentioned, you can rest assured the program provider and every aspect of the experience is trusted and has been thoroughly vetted. These programs provide a simplified, straightforward process from application to conclusion, and your placement is guaranteed with these programs. If you're accepted into the program, you will get an international internship placement. Lastly, our partner providers have vast networks of connections in the regions where they operate, and you can benefit from those connections through the placement process. For instance, our partner ISA has been in Valencia and they've been in New Zealand for years, running academic and internship programs. They have tons of connections, and you can really benefit from their connections all across those countries. Some of the drawbacks for CSU programs is that they're sometimes a little more expensive due to the level of support you receive, both from us and from our partner organizations throughout the program. And you have a little less control as your location options are kind of limited to the areas where CSU programs operate, right? They're limited to the locations where we have programs. And the partner provider is finding a placement for you rather than you really finding a placement yourself. For the more independent route, you can potentially save some money at the expense of giving up layers of support. You also have more control over the experience yourself, but of course, that comes with more risk and responsibility that you take on personally as well. It also gives you an opportunity to work within your existing professional network and potentially kind of strengthen that network. The cons of more independent experience, obviously taking on more responsibility and risk. The placements are almost always highly competitive, and so you're not guaranteed a placement. And the experience can potentially be isolating without the support and fellow interns around you. Ultimately, our goal is to help you identify the opportunity that makes the most sense for you and support you in that endeavor. So once you identify the program that's right for you, you'll want to know how you're getting academic credit for this. As I mentioned earlier, there's a few different pathways to earning academic credit through an internship. The first is through CSU departmental credit. What this means is your academic department may have an internship or service learning or independent study or research course that you can enroll in to get credit for the internship. It's very likely not a full course with a full amount of a workload, but more like a framework for you to get credit for what you're doing in the internship. You can work with your academic advisor or your ASC to learn about options through your academic department. And it's really important to note that some academic departments actually require students to take this path to get academic credit. So if your department has their own course, it's very often the best way to go. The second option is also CSU credit, but it's a course run through the Office of International Programs, our office, called IE 387 Intercultural Internships. This course is only available during the summer, as the vast majority of CSU students completing international internships do so during the summer. This is a great option if your department prefers or maybe even requires you getting CSU credit, but they don't have their own course they want you to take. I'm actually the instructor for this course. This course would lead you through kind of reflecting on and really kind of thinking through the differences in workplaces and how culture impacts the workplace and what you're seeing as far as cultural influences showing up in the workplace and your own cultural competence. The third option, and to be honest, very often the most affordable option, is through transfer credit. Many, but not all, of our partner programs offer their own internship course that you would take while you're interning, and credit is then earned through another university that they partner with. These credits then transfer back to CSU. We can work with you on the front end to know exactly how these credits will transfer back, if they'll work with any departmental requirements that you may have, and make sure that you're getting degree requirements taken care of. If you're wondering why academic credit is such a big deal with internships, why you can't just go do an internship without academic credit, many countries actually require interns to be enrolled in credit-based programs, again, for visa and immigration purposes. This is based on interns being classified as students for entry purposes. Earning academic credit also helps you fulfill some degree requirements while you're interning, so you're engaging in professional development and career enrichment while also moving closer to graduation. Lastly, earning academic credit provides access to financial aid, grants, loans, scholarships, which are typically not available if you're not earning academic credit. So for several different reasons, we require academic credit with our internship programs. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the budgets that I touched on a little earlier. Each internship program has its own unique budget based on the cost of living and interning in different parts of the world. Living in New Zealand and living in Ireland, not exactly the same. For CSU programs, we can provide a clear and thorough budget that's really meant to show you both what CSU will charge you and what the personal expenses you can expect to pay for yourself look like. When we talk about a program charge, again, that amount typically includes placement services, housing, 24/7 emergency support from our partner, insurance, a local orientation, and social programming throughout your time in the country. The CSU budget will also show you a detailed estimate of additional costs that you're going to pay out of pocket, like flights, meals, et cetera, so that you have an idea of really the total cost of going abroad and doing an internship, either for the summer or for the semester. Really important to note, largely our budgets do not include the tuition component. So it's really important to be talking with your department if they have a course they want you to take, what that tuition is going to look like. If you're going to enroll in the IA 387 course, you can talk with us about what the tuition will look like. Or if you're going to do the transfer credit, typically it's the most affordable option. You can expect to pay $200 to $400 total for the transfer credit for that. On average, the total cost for an 8-week CSU internship program is between $9,000 and $10,000. 8-week is the typical setup for the summer. So if you're thinking about a summer internship, $9,000 to $10,000 is kind of the range that you should have in mind. The good news, again, is you can potentially access financial aid to help cover some of this cost. Speaking of financial aid, I definitely want to talk through this before we end for the day. Most students coming in don't really know that the majority of your scholarships, grants, and loans and other forms of financial aid can go abroad with you. To learn more, you can always reach out to our Financial Aid for Education Abroad team and meet with our colleagues, Cindy and Evelyn, who you can see on this slide. They work in the Office of Financial Aid and they work specifically with students going abroad. They can talk with you about your current financial aid package, the grants, loans, scholarships you already get, how those maybe can be applied to going abroad. While scholarships will really rarely fully fund your program, we do have tons of scholarship opportunities in addition to the aid that you already get. And those scholarships can definitely help close the gap between your current financial aid and what you'll need to go abroad. We have scholarship and fundraising workshops throughout the year where you can find out more about specific scholarship programs and even other forms of funding. You can make an appointment, again, with Financial Aid for Education Abroad by going to the Contact Education Abroad page on our website. At an appointment, you can look at your current financial aid package. You can talk through scholarships. They can give you an idea of how the aid you already receive can be applied, what other scholarships you should be looking at, and really get a full picture of the financial side. It's a great idea to talk to financial aid really before making a final decision on a program, because they can help you determine what your budget's going to look like and whether or not a program is going to fit in that budget. As far as scholarships in particular, I have two main rules with scholarships. The first is know the deadline. Every scholarship is going to have its own deadline. You have to know the deadline, because if you miss the deadline, you miss out on the scholarship, right? Of the many, many different scholarship opportunities we have, one of the most important is the EA Common Scholarship application. I say that because this is over 20 different scholarships that this one application applies to. So it's super important to know that deadline, and at the very least, bare minimum, submit this scholarship application. You can see here on this slide, for programs starting between November 1st all the way through next September, we have an October 1st deadline coming up. So if you're thinking about going abroad next summer, you could apply for October 1st and really know your scholarship situation pretty early. Or the second deadline for programs starting later in the spring all the way through the end of next March, we have an April 1st deadline. So potentially you could apply to two different scholarship deadlines. You're not going to receive the same scholarship twice, but it's a great way. If you don't get a scholarship the first time, you can apply a second time. If you do happen to apply for an October 1st deadline for, say, a summer program, you're just going to know the status of that application a lot sooner. The second rule that I have for scholarships is don't say no for them. And what I mean by that is any scholarship you don't apply for, you don't get, right? So apply for any scholarship that you think you might qualify for and make them tell you no. Don't say no for them by not applying. All right, so you're ready to intern abroad. I've convinced you this is a great idea. How can you actually make this happen? Let's talk through some action steps. some next steps that you can really take to get going. First, who all you're going to work with. Throughout the entire process, you'll work with our office. In particular, you'll work with me or my colleague, Derek, who both advise for our internship programs. You'll work really closely with your academic advisor or your ASC, super important part of the process. And then you'll work with your program leader or program advisor from our partner organization, assuming that you go through one of our programs. Together, we'll really provide you with all the support you need to navigate the process. So as far as our team goes, in addition to our EA staff, we also have a group of peer advisors. Our peer advisors are really fundamental members of our team who are a huge benefit to you. All of our peer advisors have gone abroad with CSU, are a tremendous resource because you can come meet with them and really get a student perspective on going abroad. One of our interns even, or one of our peer advisors even completed an internship program. So you can talk with Taylor in particular about what an internship abroad looks like. Our peers have open advising hours throughout the week, during which you can meet with them to learn more about the student experience of being abroad, really get their perspective, to learn more about our peer advisors, where they went abroad, what programs they did, or to check out their open advising schedule. You can visit the Contact Education Abroad page on our EA website. All right, the really important first step that you can take, come in for open advising. If you're interested in an internship abroad or really any education abroad program, come take advantage of our open advising. You don't have to have an appointment. You can meet with a peer advisor or with EA staff. Our peer advisors have open advising hours Monday through Thursday from 9 to 4. EA staff, we have open advising Tuesdays 1 to 4, Wednesdays 9 to noon, and then 1 to 4, and Thursdays 9 to noon. There are 2 QR codes on this slide. The first on the left just takes you to our Contact Education Abroad site where you can read more about our open advising hours, and you can read about how we actually do open advising in person in Laurel Hall and also virtually via Zoom. So even if you can't make it into Laurel Hall, you can still take advantage of open advising. The second QR code to the right will actually show you directions to Laurel Hall. If you've never been there, we're on the northeast corner of the Oval, right there on campus, and that QR code will show you some directions. All right, lastly, one more QR code. This one goes to our Start Here page. Our Start Here page is a really great resource. It's a toolbox that's really designed to lead you from, I don't know where I want to go, I don't know what program I'm interested in, all the way to I'm getting ready to get on the plane, right? Step-by-step process lined out for you with links to resources that you need every step of the way. So if nothing else, for sure, click on this QR code to our Start Here page. You can definitely start there. That's why we call it that. And then we'll lead you through the rest of the process. Hope to see you all in our office sometime soon. Hope a lot of you will go take advantage of our international internship programs around the world. Happy to answer any questions that you have, and otherwise have a great rest of your day.
Christopher, we do have a question for you. The question is, do these costs, so internships, do they cost similar to just a traditional education abroad experience for a semester, or is everything covered other than travel, food, etc.? Also, are there any semester-long internships that'll give you a full 15 credits?
Yeah, so as far as semester programs go, really the cost is very similar to a semester-long academic program. You're going to get the credits for the internship, and then most of our semester-long programs are what we call a hybrid, where you have an internship component and actual coursework as well. We do, however, have some partners who do full semester internships. The trick is if there are 15 credits in your degree plan that you need for an internship, right? So if you go abroad for a semester and you're gone the whole semester and all you do is an internship, are you there for enough hours, and do you get enough credits, and do all of those credits really move you toward graduation? Those would all be questions that we would help you kind of explore with your academic advisor, make sure that you're putting yourself in the right position. But certainly a lot of our partners offer full semester, full-time internship options. And what's far more common is a full semester hybrid where you're taking courses and interning at the same time. But overall, the cost pretty similar to a full semester academic program. And I'd say the same thing for our summer programs. As far as programs where you're abroad for 8 to 10 weeks over the summer, our internship programs are really similarly priced to an academic program that's about the same length.
Thank you, Christopher. We'll hang tight for maybe another 10 seconds in case anyone wants to put in a question. Otherwise,
Sure.
that's fantastic, Christopher. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if there are questions that come up afterwards, if you're like me, as soon as you get off the call, there's going to be 10 questions that pop in your mind, or as soon as you watch the video. If that's the case, you can always just reach out to our office. You can email me, schedule an appointment, come in for open advising. Any of those would be great options to get your questions answered.
Wonderful. All right. We will let everybody go. Have a lovely evening and thanks for joining us.
Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.